Welcome to the Maturity Project. I am your host, Chad Everett Broshears. And now with this channel, I want to make a very clear declaration right away. First off, it's about 8 different areas of maturity, or 8 different categories. And there's a lot of sub-derivations in those categories. Jesus, I can't speak tonight. Oh, and that is perfect for the next part of my statement, which is failing up. There's a beautiful thing about the way that we can live this life. You can either be so rigid that you're so hard on yourself that you feel that perfection is the only option when you go to do anything. And if you can't have perfection, you probably shouldn't do it. I will say, please excuse that idea. It is robbing you of a wonderful future and the fun you can have by just goofing off while you're getting better at things. And you can look at it that way. If you look at it like, hey, I'm practicing something I'm not good at, and I'm going to goof off my way to being good at it. A lot of ways you can look at this. It's completely up to you. This is your life, not mine, to live. I have my life to live. It's your life to live. So with that being said, I'm not the best at this, but I plan on getting better, and I do this on a daily basis because that's my goal. I also want to make a difference in this life for as many people as possible, and what I have found to be the root cause of the issues that people are suffering with in life is that they lack development or maturity. Now, it's not a negative, it's not a bad thing when somebody says you're immature, unless it is intended to be that statement. With what I'm saying is not that intention. I'm not trying to tell you that you're a bad person because you're not developed in that area. We all are not given every single opportunity to grow and develop throughout our life because we all have our unique backgrounds and experiences along the way. So with that, a little bit of forgiveness and a whole lot of compassion can get us all to another level for what we'd like to experience in this life. That being said, I've come up with 8 different areas. That's what this channel is about. That's what the education for the Maturity Project is about. This moth even loves it too. Fail up, right? The little thing jumps in there and gets my attention. And he was like right on the eye line. All right, so, okay. Now, today's conversation actually comes from the audience. I've had several people that have asked that I speak about specific topics. And 2 of those topics combine into being one because they actually work with each other very well. The first one that I was asked to talk about today was budgeting, needs versus wants. So his first statement was budgeting. And then his second statement was needs versus wants. Easy enough, I'm going to count that as one. And then another person asked about patience and about having a conversation about that. Now, there is a massive conversation about having each one of those, because there's so many details depending on what's going on in your specific life that we could talk about. But I'm producing this to try to hit the best targets as possible, but at the same time so that you understand that, look, there's 8 different areas of maturity. I am not the most developed in every single one of those areas. One of the reasons for this education is that I am so interested in growing and developing in these areas. I want them too. So I'm putting in a lot of effort so that I can develop, but that effort is combined with the compassion aspects as well as my curiosity, so it doesn't feel like a laborious effort. It just feels like a train headed in a certain direction and I'm along for the ride. And I'd love to be able to instill that in you as well. So if you're dealing with challenges like, budgeting when it comes to needs versus wants, because a lot of people right now are dealing with some serious budget issues because we really do have a struggling economy. So people that were living paycheck to paycheck 4+ years ago are now panicking, right? And people that were living above paycheck to paycheck, but they were not far above that, they're now in that paycheck to paycheck model, and they're also likely struggling. And they're looking at what they need to do in order to budget better so that they don't struggle as much. So, and then there is the aspect of patience. So, now, look, I'm not going to give you a golden answer today or a platinum answer. Now, you might hear something that you yourself are missing specifically when it comes to what's necessary in order to build that beautiful wall that is your life. or the palace of your life. And this is the brick that will finish the whole damn thing. But for a lot of other people, this is a brick among many that go into that. So if you're watching for the magic bullet, you're probably not going to get it. But this will be a foundational value that helps stabilize you enough that you have the insights to do something more with it. And it's up to you to convert that into the thing that works best for you. So I hope that you find value in this. That's my goal. That's my intention. That's why I take this time away from my family and away from my other parts of my life in order to try to do something, because this is a passion and purpose of mine, which is actually the 8th area of maturity, spirituality, and purpose. So now, when it comes to budgeting needs versus wants, one of the smartest ways to do budgeting is to make sure, one, you are definitely aligning yourself with things that are within your means. So if you make, let's say, $1,000 a week, just a generic number out of the sky, grabbed it, hey, here we go. So $1,000 a week, and your living costs per week, total cost per week, could be $600. All right, just again, generic numbers here. So you'd have a $400 surplus that you may find that you need to justify by going to Disney or wherever you want to go in order to kind of say, hey, I worked really hard, or go out for a nice dinner every night or whatever, which, by the way, well, not every night, but every week. But a $400 dinner is going to be pretty big, right? But it could be that with several other things. But I am not against treating yourself for your hard work. And you should have a reward sequence associated with that. But if you want to make something more significant when it comes to finance, look at it from the same perspective of the exercise industry or the fitness industry. The fitness industry, you want to, on the basic level, by the way, I go far deeper than this whenever it comes to that, because this is my area of expertise. One of the areas of expertise is fitness. I've been in it for well over a decade now, and I went the holistic route and did a lot of advanced training in it. And that's on every aspect. It's holistic, right? Or at least, anyway, not to get caught up in the minutiae about the absolute details. There could be areas that I didn't necessarily study, and whatever. So let's not go down that route. But just know that I'd studied on a very broad spectrum when it comes to the fitness. Okay, so when it comes to the comparison here, fitness to finance, right? So that's the physical maturity to financial maturity. If you want to lose weight, the simple version is create a caloric deficit, which is how many calories you take in and what's your output per day. And you have what's called a basal metabolic rate. That's your basic level for function for survival, which your organs, your total body's needs for just total caloric values. That's keeping temperature above ambient. It's keeping, well, most instances, anyway, keeping the body temperature of around 98 degrees, right? That actually takes calories. It's a metabolic response for heat generation. Then you also have to have cellular repair, things like that. So let's not get too complicated and complex in this, but just know that your body has what's called the basal metabolic rate. That's your daily requirements necessary just to survive. And that has a caloric value, right? And then your exercise or movements have an output value that has a caloric consumption that would, when you keep a deficit, let's say that, simple numbers again, 2,000 calories that is your daily needs, and you're hitting at 1,500 to 1,600 calories a day. You'll have a 400 to 500 calorie deficit. How long before you lose a pound of body fat, right? It's 3,600 calories to a pound of body fat. How long before you've lost a pound? If on a daily basis in that scenario, you would lose a pound fairly quickly, right? And your body would transform. You give yourself a couple months and you're good to go. Well, let's liken this to finance. Okay, so, well, let's say your living requirements without extra, that's including going out for dinners, that's including going out for entertainment reasons, things like that. You can look at that same formula of thinking and say, you know what? On this side, I need to make sure that the amount of money that I make keeps a value where I have a $400 to $500 per week, if that's what works for you, right? If you were to just start right now anew and you had none of these things, or you're starting off and you don't know what to do because you're just leaving your parents or whatever scenario that you're in, that actually means that you get to start, you would create a budget value like this. Now, I wish I had this in my 20s. by the way, and I'll give it a story to this in a second of why I find this so beneficial, is this actually ends in, this is in the financial maturity aspects. So if you are, let's say you make $1,000 a week and your living costs are going to be about $600, well, you have a $400 surplus. That means that you have $400 that can carry over. Well, as long as you don't take that, and like if you go to the car dealership and you say it's time to upgrade because you want to treat yourself. By the way, we're in a consumer mentality. That is the unfortunate default that nearly all of us, including myself, has fallen victim to. Because you have hard work and then you have the desire to reward yourself, and sometimes your hard work has down to the second and down to the most minuscule aspect of hard work where you tell yourself, I'm going to reward myself. Or you look at all the hard work when you're sitting down at the car lot and you're saying, you know what? I worked my butt off. I deserve this. I should have X. And then you figure out a way of doing this. So you're like, you know what? I have an additional $400 every month that carries over. Well, I do like having, my subscriptions, so that I like having my, entertainment subscriptions like Netflix or Hulu or, HBO Max or whatever. And you have those things that are slowly creeping up onto that $400. So yeah, it's on a weekly basis, but at the same time, you're still incrementally taking away that surplus. What we don't typically do is factor in inflation. We don't typically factor in what kind of political decisions would be made. By the way, when you look at federal, usually it takes a little while before we finally see the impact in our day-to-day lives. But when we do, it takes a little while to get there. It also takes a little while for it to go away. So it does take something. You may not notice it, and it's kind of like it's actually been a debunked statement, but we'll still go with it, which is the frog in a pot. When you set the water to boil, but you slowly increase the temperature, the frog doesn't jump out. It's actually been proven to be wrong. They actually will jump out. But point of it is, let's go with the old mindset on it, which is they're just not going to jump out because the water slowly increases the temperature and they're going to stay in there and they'll cook to death. They won't even realize it's happening. No, that really isn't the way it works. But regardless, let's stick with it. Let's go with it, okay? So with that, yeah, you slowly increase. So what you're doing is you're slowly increasing your costs on a weekly basis. Is it better if I just go with monthly basis, if it makes more sense? Because that seems to be the way people think more often. I like weekly because that's the way I think. I'd like to get things under control in a very specific and controllable way and not wait for the end of the month to find it out. But if you want to go at the end of the month, let's say you have $400 left over at the end of the month. We'll go with that. Screw it. Do it. All right. $400 at the end of the month. It's not a whole lot of money to carry over, but you're still living within your means. But it is actually pretty easy to take that money away from you. All you have to do is say, you know what? $200 more a month on my car payment. It's not a big deal. I can have a nicer vehicle and people will see me and think, you know what? That's a nice car. Whatever your justification about the emotional aspects about having that vehicle is, because the majority of us want a vehicle that emotionally satisfies us. It's not so much about point A to point B, because you'd have a whole lot more jalopies out there, right? I want the security that the vehicle is not going to break down on me. I want to look good. I don't want dents and dings and all the rest of that stuff. I want people to know that I'm successful. Whatever your conversation is, a Toyota and a Lexus, right? Manufactured by the same company. It's Toyota. They own Lexus. And yet you're going to be like, hey, I want the Lexus because it's a status symbol. Point A to point B. You're actually consuming your extra, your expendable. So you can't save it. You can't invest it. So your needs versus wants. Your needs are going to be point A to point B. Your wants are going to be the Lexus, not the Toyota. So what do we need to do about this? Well, you have to be the person that makes this decision. I've made these mistakes myself. I've sat in a car lot and told myself, well, if I pay an additional $100 a month or $200 a month on this car payment, I will knock down the principal in no time, which is true. You'll knock down the principal very quickly. Here's something that is a sad reality. Very few people ever do it, nor do they do it the entire timeline. Same thing as a mortgage. The majority of the mortgage companies out there will let you pay your mortgage twice a month. And all it is is you take the same payment, but you pay it, so if your mortgage payment, again, like $1,000 a month, which is probably not likely right now in this economy, but let's just say generic numbers. Again, your mortgage is $1,000 a month. You may have, and most likely do have, a financial institution that will allow you to pay $500 on the first of the month and $500 on the 15th of the month, whatever date, halfway through the month, okay? That actually will knock down your total interest payments because you're making more frequent payments. It actually knocks down your total that you'll pay throughout the term of the loan. But we're not taught that. What we're taught is it's a month. You make your payments on a monthly basis. You're making a payment halfway through the month, and the inflation values, it's a trickle thing, but it does take away from the total debt when you make 2 payments a month and half of the payment. Same amount of money you're paying every month. You're just paying it twice a month. You're splitting your payment. It actually does make a difference. We're not taught that. You're not taught that. If you want more on that, by the way, just simply go to Google. It's an easy way to get to it. You can find that answer, and most people aren't aware of it. One of my ex-girlfriends is a CPA, and she's the one that taught me about it. Now, Leah, you were phenomenal, and you were such a major impact in my life. Thank you so much for what you've done. Now, and by the way, she is a huge advocate for the Maturity Project. So she was one of the first people I talked to about it openly in this type of format. So God love you. You're awesome. The Leah Gardner. Anyway, all right, so that's one part of it, right? It's something as far as your total monthly costs. Well, if you add in, let's say, Netflix and Hulu, you add in your HBO, then you get into your cell phone, you got your total costs, by the way, you can add your cell phone. We're going to take entertainment, set it in a different category because you don't need it. Cell phone's arguable, but a lot of companies now require that you have it. If not, there's a pretty good chance they won't do business with you or hire you to be one of their employees because they want to be able to have immediate access to you via text message, phone call, but they know that you have your phone on you versus waiting till you get home to a home line. Home lines are a bit antiquated at this point. So we'll keep that into the basic monthly costs, but we're not putting entertainment in there, and we're not putting any of the other extraordinaries or the pleasure values whenever it comes to it, which would be going out to dinner, things like that. We're not adding that yet because it requires that you have another level, which is going to tap into your expenditures, your extra money on a monthly basis. So now, I am not the world's expert when it comes to finance. Let's keep it at a rudimentary level because this can make a major impact because it keeps it simple. If you want to add that in and say one nice dinner a month, okay, well, right now, a really nice dinner is probably going to cost you between, if it's a decent one, it's not a high-end one, we'll say it's anywhere between $80 to $120, maybe $140, okay? Well, out of your $400, plus you have your subscriptions in there, you're starting to eat up a bit. Let's say we go to the higher end, $120. Then you add in your subscription for Netflix, your Hulu, your Max, maybe Paramount, whatever your entertainment system or your entertainment values are. Some of you people are going to have like a PlayStation, Xbox, or something like that when it comes to video games, and you'll have these things, but they just slowly stack up, right? Now there's companies out there that you can pay them and they're going to tell you have all these subscriptions. God, it's crazy. They're just going to tell you, oh, you got these subscriptions, so you probably should cancel some of them. But you're getting one more to take care of the other ones because that's the way that businesses seem to love to work. So, all right, with that, live within your means. So when you start planning to make things in situations, if you simply sit down, by the way, one of the easiest ways to really get yourself grounded is keep a ledger. Keep a written bank account ledger. This is not checking in on your bank account through your app on a regular basis. This is a written ledger. Simple thing about a written ledger is every month you have a reoccurring, it's already carried over into the next month. You don't have to go, oh wait, I think it's this, I think it's that, because you actually do play more of the thinking game when you go to your app versus having it written out. When you have it written out, it actually functions better for you as a person when you have it in that format versus checking your account often. Because I come from the old school before all these apps and all this stuff, so you'd have to call your bank. You're like, oh God, put your information in. It's all automated, and then it tells you what your amount is left, and then you're like, all right, I can afford it. Let's get it. Now, mind you, that was when I was in my 20s, but still, the point is, it was happening then. So, when it comes to this stuff, man, this is actually not hard. Just get back to that. So, when you get your ledger written out, you're going to give yourself a huge piece of power. Now, we could add some other stuff into it, right? So then we can say, all right, now what's going to be in the leisure category? So you know what? Treating yourself is not something you need to chastise yourself over. Treat yourself, but understand it's a treat. So if it is going to be one of the subscription services, that's a treat to you. Fantastic. Go, enjoy it. Here's a thing, though, because I get into purpose when it comes to that. So I do not allow myself a whole lot of time watching television. I prefer to read because I have more purpose drive and I have other things. So you need to understand that too, because it's not just about your finances. It also needs to attribute to your purpose, your purpose or spirituality. What are you going to do with your life? Why are you doing what you're doing? So that is going to exceed today's conversation, but if you want more on that, put a comment in the comment section. I'll be happy to talk about it a little bit more, because your purpose will create more fulfillment in life versus just the experience of paying your bills on time and having some extra in your bank account. Because at the end of your life, it's not going to matter so much what's in your bank account as much as it is about what you did with your life. And that spirituality and purpose is going to be that category, not so much of the finance. But mind you, if you're broke the majority of your life, your purpose and your spirituality will have its own struggles, because it's going to be very hard to be able to have the freedom to do the things that are going to create more fulfillment there. It's all interconnected. It's the maturity aspects, right? It's 8 areas. So, income, your cost on a monthly basis that are just your hard fixed costs, your car insurance. By the way, I don't know if you're with me on this, but I am very frustrated right now with car insurance. It is astronomical. 45 years old. I have a clean driving record. I have good credit. I have a lot of things that would be ideal, that I was told that as you get older, your car insurance will get cheaper. If you're a parent, if you're married, those kind of things actually lower your rate, or supposed to. And yet, I am paying more now than I've ever paid in my entire life. So, yeah, we got some maturity aspects on the individual level, and that could hit the reform level, so that these companies would stop taking advantage of us, or whatever's causing them to have such high costs. We can get it addressed. Yeah. Anyway, not to get too lost in that, but that just hit a little nerve for me, because son of a bitch, that insurance is it is a car payment at this point. So it's stupid. It is stupid. All right. So you have to have a range for that. So you can say, hey, worst case scenario, the next 5 years, the term of this loan, if things were to increase by 30% in total cost for this, that's maintenance, that's gas prices could increase, do a factor of it. Do worst case scenario, 30% increase in each one of those categories. Then say, could I still afford this if I don't make more money between now and then? Because that's going to eat up more of whatever's left over at the end of the month. So that will keep you in a better, more mature position, so you can understand what your needs versus wants are. Your needs are exactly what's necessary to survive at the level you're at right now. Your wants are going to be the things that tickle your fancy, that are going to be your entertainment values, and the things that are going to be the luxuries. Going on vacation, that's going to cost you to go places, versus doing it for something free or local that could be lower cost. I'm a big advocate, by the way. I'll throw this little piece in there for you guys, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. When it comes to vacations on a low cost, I'm a big advocate for driving over flying, because I do enjoy to see some country. And also, I like to go to places that are not commonly tourist destinations. So I like old towns. I like the country and rural areas. You can find that if you get out there and there's resorts there, they're typically a lot cheaper. There's actually a lot of great things you can discover, and then realize a lot of new things if you go that route and save money on it, and still get the reward of the experience that you're out for, or something similar to that. So I used to actually do this fun thing with some of my friends when I was in my 20s where we take a map and then we throw a dart at it. So, and then that's where we talk about going for our vacations. That was actually pretty fun. It's kind of romantic in its sense, but it was just me and the boys, so it's not intended to be romantic like that. But I often envision doing that with my romantic female partner. So anyway, all right. So as far as that goes, look, needs versus wants, it's a really beautiful thing to understand. Then let's get to patience. All right. So when it comes to patience, you have to understand what your attachments are, because a lot of times we have an unrealistic expectation about how long it takes to accomplish something. If it is investing in a way that you actually see decent return, well, if you do not have the structural thinking process that is afforded through patience, then there's a pretty good chance you'll either, well, there's two sides of this. One, you're probably going to be upset that the investment that you're involved in is not yielding the return. And by that, you may be more likely to get into something with higher risk. Well, would you rather be upset that you have a slow return, or would you rather be upset that what you invested in lost all of your return or lost a major part of your return? It's up to you. What would you prefer? Patience affords you one. Now, the other is, yes, you could strike it rich, but you know what? That's the casino or gambling mindset. I'm not a big advocate for that because it does have a lot of emotion over logic instead of logic over emotion. I want both, but I want to have them in the right combination so that I can still feel alive, but at the same time have the safety necessary in order to make solid moves in life. It's a process. You have to learn this stuff. So it's typically not given, and we almost will never have a default to that. Because we have this interesting spirit about us as being human beings. So when it comes to the patience aspects, that's part of it. Patience also gives you a wonderful virtue, because patience is a virtue. With your patience makes you slower to speak and faster to listen. It makes it that you're more forgiving for the decisions you make, which also therefore means you're more forgiving for the decisions other people make, internally and externally. Life will also, through patience, give you the ability to see people working through the maturity challenges that they have, and the privilege of being able to see where they are in such a way that you don't make them wrong for it. You see the person that was abandoned by authorities or dismissed authorities at a certain time in their life because they didn't have the right kind of guidance that landed for them, where they got locked in a time capsule of maturity and it just got activated in front of you. Patience will give you the ability to sit back and say, I understand that person's pretty upset. And to what it looks like, take the adult out of it. What behavior, what age of the behavior am I witnessing? Well, that looks like an 8-year-old having a tantrum, or a 12-year-old, or a 16-year-old, or whatever. You can actually, you look for the age of the behavior versus the age of the person. And then you can identify that person stopped developing there. And compassion is one of the necessary nourishing aspects or elements for that to grow. But you have to understand how to approach it. If you don't understand that, by the way, send me an email at yourmaturityproject@gmail.com. You're likely a wonderful candidate to get into the mentorship program to help you start identifying these things so that you don't make people wrong and you can actually be a game changer. By the way, the more lives you change, the more likely you are to see significant development and growth and opportunity and fulfillment in your own life, because you're capable of making changes for other people. We're communal creatures. Learn that lesson and you will take away so many of your restrictions. It's insane. But you have to learn that lesson. But you have to roller coaster, baby. Once you learn that lesson, it's like, actually, it's better when you do the golf conversation. Here's the one that I have to give you because, again, fitness is one of my areas of expertise. If you start to tinker with a golfer, with their game, especially a professional golfer, I would never tinker with a professional golfer while they're in season, when they're in tournaments. I would only do it immediately after it was all over. So there was no games that they were playing for money, and there was no games that were actually playing for prestige or their celebrity. Because once you start tinkering with their exercise regimen and correcting muscular imbalances, the nervous system doesn't know how to handle that, and you actually screw their game up. You make it worse for them. Every instance that I've worked with, I have made the game worse in that timeline because the body works that way. You're recalibrating the system, and they're not going to have the same accuracies, whether that's power or dexterity, accuracy, all those things. They're just not, they've been tinkered with. So when you're dealing with your own changes like that, just be aware that, yeah, that stuff happens. So just be, I'd say watch out what you tinker with. That's why it's good to have a coach, somebody that understands what you're going through so that you don't sabotage yourself because of the excitement of whatever's there to change. So patience is a wonderful virtue, and you can cultivate it. You can make something amazing out of it, but you do have to get started somewhere. Now, patience is a developed skill set for 99% of the people out there, 99.9% of the people out there. Patience is a developed aspect. Don't let your inexperience in something trigger your impatience to cause you to do something that would be detrimental. Now, mind you, other side of the coin, you do something that's detrimental. The good thing about it is the hardship from the outcome of that can teach the lesson. But most people, they're not geared to take the lesson. They would rather just deal with, avoiding that hardship in the future versus going, how did I get here? The Thrive model. Again, 3 different models when it comes to dealing with conflict or challenges: avoidance, survival, and thrive, or thriving. Which one do you know? Which one do you apply? And do you have absolute certainty? If you're not familiar with that, I've made multiple videos. It's in the library here on the YouTube channel. If you are not subscribed to the Maturity Project, I highly encourage you to do it. Join the community. We are a community-based education. We are bringing multiple different people into this. We have a lot of people behind the scenes now, and it's growing, and I'm happy to take on as many that have contribution or a desire to contribute, and we will figure out a way to help that happen. So, beautiful thing about it is that everybody that's on the inside, they have access to all of this information, and they have access to it on a daily basis. Actually, they can reach out to me anytime, and they do. So they have access to this on a moment-to-moment basis. So it's all growth. It's all beautiful. We're creating something great here. So patience is a virtue. It is a wonderful thing to develop, and it will contribute to the needs versus wants when it comes to budgeting. Unfortunately, not everybody was given the kind of guidance necessary to be able to be effective when it comes to their financial maturity. I'm one of those people. My family, the way I grew up, my mother, I love her for all kinds of wonderful things about her, but her financial maturity is very low. And my father passed, he's no longer with us. He had a much better financial maturity, much more developed financial maturity, but he didn't share it as much because that had to do with his purpose and his relationships. There's other aspects of maturity that he was lacking in. It's not a slight or attack against him. It's just the observation from being a son. And I was gifted the absence of my father's financial maturity and the blessing of my mother's financial maturity. So I was gifted those things or developed into that. So I had to actually overcome some of these things, and I still work on overcoming them. So, all right. If you like this, you got something out of today, put a comment in the comment section. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to the channel. I love growing this. I am doing the 8 days of giveaways for Christmas. It is December 2024, and we got a lot of great things going on right now. These giveaways, there's no cost to you. So I'm doing all 8 areas, and there is a giveaway for every area, and this is to help you get better insights so that you can start, especially in January, creating something unique that is at your say-so, because you're maturing and you're reframing your life. It's not just about resolutions. It's about reframing the behavior so you can have a better outcome. So with that, I am your host, Chad Everett Brochures. Thank you so much for joining today and for enjoying this video and watching all the way to the end. I appreciate your patience. And with that, look, the path to hell is paved with good intentions. There's a lot of people out there with great hearts, but they're not mature enough to make the best decisions, but their heart is leading, so passion drives. But the outcome is superficial until it turns into the thing that's outside of their understanding, and then it turns to the path to hell. So the final on this is, look, let's do this, and I'll give you this, and then we'll go to the final. Just share this video with the person in your life you'd like to make a meaningful conversation, because enrollment is so much better when it comes to changing your life, because other people understand you're up to something, and they'll be more forgiving and supportive, versus you don't say anything to them, and then they don't know what you're up to, and then they behave more like a crab in a bucket, pull you back down when you're trying to create freedom for yourself. They don't know. They just know what they're familiar with you. If you want to make a change to that, you've got to enroll them. It's better for you, because then you understand if the person's a jerk or not. Because if you've enrolled them, they're not going to, most likely, they're not going to actively try to push you back to what they know you to be. They're more open, accepting, and supportive that you're making some changes. So share this video with those people in your life that you want to make that powerful statement with. Your life, it's up to you. Let's make some changes and let's do it together, because we grow through what we go through. Yesterday's mistakes give us opportunities for tomorrow's success. It's the Maturity Project. I'm Chad Everett Brochures. Thank you for joining me today and watching this straight through. Like the video, help me with the algorithm. Comment in the comment section, be part of the community. I appreciate you guys, all of you. You're incredibly valuable to me. Until next time, let's get up to something. Let's get up to it together. Let's go.